here saw my video on YouTube about NoFap? Raise your hand. Only a few of you. It's funny, it's actually my most popular video for some reason. And I always think about it like someone who's like YouTubing like, NoFap, what's this NoFap thing? And I think mine's really popular because it's in front of a crowd like this, where it's the majority of men. And I'm assuming someone who doesn't know me is like, is this some kind of FAP convention? Like, all these fucking dudes who just can't stop beating their meat, who just show up. And it starts off with a little soundtrack, and there's people hugging me. It's like the fappers are hugging, oh man. And then I come up and I explain the dynamics of fapping and the difference between an inspirational fap and a desperational fap. And this is very important, okay? So we'll start with the basics, and then we'll venture down the road of porn and how it all just amplifies. So first of all, fapping. People think it's a very simple topic. It's either you fap or you don't, but it's very complex. What really matters is the place it's coming from, okay? So you can think of it like this. Here, this is not even working. This is called the inspirational fap. What's an inspirational fap? Where you feel amazing. You're not running away from anything. You're in this nice state of self-acceptance, self-love, and hey, you just want to touch it a bit, right? You just want to pleasure yourself, give yourself a little treat. Nothing wrong with an inspirational fap when it just kind of kicks in out of nowhere. You're just chilling, so it's like, hey, you already feel good, but you know what would be even better? Just give it a little tickle. That's the inspirational fap. But then there's the desperational fap. And that's the majority of fapping. And that's where you fap to run away from this feeling of emptiness inside, where you run away from this shit that's inside you. And this is what governs most fapping. A lot of guys spend hours upon hours fapping off to porn. Like you think, it's like, oh, they're just procrastinating. No, they're just watching porn. Like, I kid you not, it's a mix of YouTube and porn. It's like in between like porn faps, you need the break of YouTube. Like, recharge, motherfucker, watch some Julian, some Tyler, recharge, and fap again. And again, it's like, it's an easy way to escape yourself. You know, I mean, what better? Like, there are multiple ways. You can drink, you can go out and party, you can watch a movie, but if you start just jacking off to porn, I mean, on one hand, it's like it literally makes you forget of all other feelings of pain or discomfort. It's all like, all right here. And you get lost in this kind of hypnotic trance. You're like, fuck yeah, people. And then at the end, you just come and have like a glimpse of enlightenment, one could call it. And it's addictive. You know, the more you do this, it's like, I know people who will spend hours fapping and watching porn and even structuring out and taking pleasure in structuring out their fap session. Or that's actually where most of the joy comes from. It's like you get home, you start feeling like shit. You're like, God damn it, gotta escape how I feel. Okay, let's porn it up. Open the browser, go to your favorite website, and then, yeah, whether it's Pornhub or, I mean, I'm sure there's many other more underground videos you sick fuckers watch, but I'm kidding. But no, you'll literally spend hours like structuring it out. It's like, okay, I'm gonna start with this, then with this. And then, of course, there's the most important piece, which is the climax piece. You're like, well, which one am I going to come to? And then there's the whole debate, and you have your perfect sequence, and then you're lost. And then you come, and then you're like, ah, fuck, and then you feel emptier and shittier after that. Watch the YouTube, watch one of my videos, back to porn, and that's most of your life, okay? Now, the whole NoFap idea, and this is a huge movement, by the way, NoFap. It says, okay, you're run by your dick, or your clit, you're run by the desperation. This isn't healthy, it's ruining your life, and it does ruin the lives of people where it's like you accomplish nothing because all you're doing is just fucking fapping and you can't stop. And what they say is just stop completely. Now, this is, the idea behind it is good. And if you're someone who can't stop beating it, you should try just cutting it off completely, just no fap at all. Like if you're getting fired because you're just fapping too much, no more fapping. However, it doesn't really get to the cause because what you're doing is you're saying eliminate everything, including the inspirational fap. Okay? The key, however, instead of just suppressing all this and shaming yourself for fapping is identify what it is you're running away from. What is that emptiness inside? What is that icky feeling you're trying to escape by fapping? Get rid of this, and all the desperation will fade away, and you'll be left with the inspirational fap, the natural fapping. Okay, that's the dynamics of fap. Now going deeper though, and this is something that a lot of people would ask on the original fap video I made. It's like, well, I guess it's okay with jacking off. What about porn? And porn, although if you're a younger person, you might think, well, how else am I going to learn how to have sex? You know? I'm not going to watch my parents. Well, you know, it's like porn's the only way. However, there are downsides to watching porn. Okay, two big ones. The first is it conditions you to objectify other human beings. Objectifying people will do so much harm on your life as well. Why? Because it's conditioning you to not view these people as actual people who have a life, but as objects for your own gratification. Okay? And you might be like, well, you know, it's their choice. You could argue that. You know, again, you don't know their background. Maybe it's not really their choice. But what it does for you is it conditions your mind to be like, okay, it's not sex with people, it's objects. And it disconnects you from other human beings to the point where even if you're walking in the street, you stop viewing them as people you can really connect with and more like objects for my pleasure. Okay? And this will kill any kind of connection when it comes to even friendships or even relationships. There will be zero intimacy. Okay? One little test too if you want to know if you objectify people or not. Next time you're fapping to someone, watching some porn, ask yourself, how would I feel if that were my sister, my brother, my daughter, my son? You might be like, whoa. Well, first of all, you might be like, well, fuck incest. But get past the incest. You'd feel very differently. Why? Because it's someone you care about. That's someone you know. It's a human, not an object. That's the difference. Okay? So it will kill that for you. And you'll see it. Like the more you kind of go down this porn thing, it's like, it's very hard to form relationships. It's very hard to even have sex and connect with someone, you know, cherishing a moment. Sex can be like a huge builder of intimacy and connection, but you'll just see it as like object. How do I do it with this object? Pleasure me like in the porn video. Okay? And that's the other downside is that you think it will help you with sex, but it'll actually destroy sex for you. Why? Because like with any addiction, because it does turn into an addiction, it's running away from this, you always need more. You desensitize yourself to a certain amount. If you go out at first and you're like, oh, maybe one drink, then you get used to the one drink. Now it's 2 drinks, 3 drinks, 4 drinks. Okay? That happens with porn. At first you're like, you know what? A picture of boobs will make me come just looking at it. Do you remember those days? Like you literally see, like the first time you saw a boob picture, like, whoa, shit. Now here's the question. Does it do anything for you now? You're like, boobs, that's PG shit. Literally, that's what it's become. Your first porn, you could just see anything. You're just like, whoa, 2 naked people, it's a video, come. But the more you do it, the more you're going to need. And there's a lot of studies of this, like people who just get so lost in the porn world, and you might identify yourself or resonate with this, it gets to the point where they need to see the most fucked up shit to come, to get turned on. Like to the point where there's the fucking donkey and the midget and the dog and all this crazy shit. Anything less than that, it's like, ugh, it's nothing. And then guess what? You'll read a lot of this, like people who can't enjoy real sex with a human being because it's not the crazy shit they see. They're like, what is it? Kissing? What? Just sex? What the? Where's the midget? And you just can't get it up. You can't come. It ruins sex for you. Okay? And not just that, but it'll also fuck up your brain if you look into it. So eliminate porn would be my advice to you. Now, similar to the NoFap, the strategy you hear is, well, just cut it off. But no, you want to follow these 3 steps here. Okay? The first one is you want to identify your triggers. And this comes down to any form of escapism, whether it's porn, whether it's drinking, smoking, whatever it is. Identify what triggers you to do it. So just do an audit on your week, on your month, be like, okay, when were all the times I jacked off? When are all the times I watched porn? Were there any common threads? Was there a theme? Was there something that happened that suddenly it's like, oh, I need to come? Is it me being at home alone? And then you just start sitting with the boredom. You're like, shit, I need something to do. Is it bad news? You're like, oh man, let me jack off and curl tears, lube, like whatever, you know? What is it? Identify the triggers. Huge. Number 2, Find out what you're trying to escape from. What is it? What's that emptiness inside? What are you escaping? And then number 3, instead of acting on it and escaping, this is actually a great opportunity. You identify the porn escape, you identify the triggers. When it kicks in, and so you're like, must jack off, resist it, and dive into what it is you're trying to escape. And then learn how to process that and release it. Because oftentimes those things we need to process and let go of, different things we've disowned, suppressed, or repressed, are so far out of our awareness, it's close to impossible to identify them. But when they start bubbling up, and your instinct is to escape, resist it, dive into it, and release it. So porn can actually help you big time if you use it the right way, to identify what's down there and release all this shit you carry inside. We live in an uncertain world. Just turn on the news, what do you see? Chaos, terror, suffering. Things are changing so fast that your head is spinning. You know the feeling, being pulled in different directions by your friends, your family, mainstream media, not knowing what to do or who to believe. Did you ever stop and ask yourself, how did your life get this way?
I felt so much shame when it comes to being me, and now I don't feel that shame anymore.
I had no way of being able to deal with that pain, and for the first time in my life, I finally feel an inner stillness and peace in myself.
I didn't even know what was happening. Like, my hands were just shaking, and it was just like me being my authentic self.
Most of us live lives of escapism. Anything to cope with this feeling eating us up inside. Distracting ourselves with dumb things on TV, numbing ourselves with junk food, alcohol, cigarettes, and drugs. Is this the way life was meant to be, or is there perhaps another way?
It's been the first time in over 10 years since my dad died that I actually felt like I did before.
I've decided to take a stance for good, for love, for authenticity. And I've created a movement of people dedicated to raising the vibe. A movement dedicated to doing something about this, and it's called Transformation Mastery Academy.
That was amazing, just being able to finally find that root reason.
I really want to thank each and every one of you out of the bottom of my heart. Thank you, guys.
Now, I'm not some fake guru promising you overnight results. What I promise you here is a tribe of people to help support you and guide you along this journey. In Transformation Mastery Academy, you'll no longer be alone. You'll no longer feel lost. You will be given the roadmap to true, permanent personal transformation. Enough with this fake life of quiet desperation. Step into your truth and join the movement.